Hi everybody. As you can see in front of me, I picked some dandelion blooms this morning. I'm going to make two different things today. A dandelion oil that will be used in salve and a dandelion tincture. Hang on one second, I forgot to grab my olive oil. Thought I had everything out. Okay, sorry about that. Got my olive oil. Now for both of these, you can leave the greens on the bottom of the flower and you just start filling a jar. I have a little jelly jar for each one. And what dandelions I have left, I'll pick the petals off and dry them for tea. Just pack them into a jar. Dandelions have tons and tons of health benefits. Go ahead and do some investigating. Okay, I filled my jelly jar. They're not packed tight because you do want some room for the oil and stuff to get around them. I have extra virgin olive oil. Cover your dandelions. Apologize for my finger there. I do have a Band-Aid on. I'll switch other hands. And you just make sure the dandelions are covered in the oil. You need to push them down. These dandelions I did sit out on my table for about an hour for any of the bugs to crawl out. I didn't want to rinse them, only because I didn't want to add water to my salve or my tincture. And you just put a lid and a ring on your jar and sit this in a dark, cool area. I'll sit this in one of my kitchen cupboards and shake it or stir it once a day, probably for about a week. And you'll leave this sit for 4 to 6 weeks before you drain it and finish making the salve. Okay. Next, take some more of the dandelion leaves, also with the green stems. Fill this other jelly jar. Whoop, there's long stem. There's an ant that decided it was crawling out. Like I said, that's why I left them sit for an hour. I'm working on in my sunroom. A few more. Okay. Then in this jar, I will be adding 100 proof vodka to make the tincture. Same as you did with the oil. Pull the vodka over the dandelion blooms. Push the blooms down into the vodka. Helps get the air bubbles out. Make sure they're all covered. Fill this with vodka. Lid, ring, and then this will go in the same dark cupboard as I'll put the oil mixture, and I'll let this sit for 4 to 6 weeks before we strain it. Okay, next I'm going to pause you for 1 minute while I go get a paper plate. Okay, I'm back. And for the rest of these, I'm going to take the petals off. I grab a hold of the yellow petal part and twist and pull the petals out, because I'll be drying the petals for tea. You don't, try not to get any of the green in your drying mixture, because the green is a bitter. Grab a hold of the yellow, kind of twist. Now this does take some time, of course, but it is worth it. Dandelion is good. It's anti-inflammatory. It's a diuretic. It has tons and tons of medicinal value. I'm not going to go in full detail. You can investigate that on your own. But this I'll be using for myself. Like I said, this will be dried. And I'll put this just on, leave it on this paper plate. Set it in a place it won't be bothered for a few days till it dries on its own. You can use a dehydrator or low setting on your oven, actually the lowest setting on your oven. But for all the more I'll have here, I'm just going to let it dry on its own on a paper plate. I also, this morning while I was picking my dandelion, I picked some more wild violet to dry. And that will become tea also. I love having these herbal teas to drink in the wintertime. It's also, you know, a nice change from just regular old tea. And you can see some of these have already, just from sitting, have started to close up. When you do pick dandelions, you want to be able to take care of them fairly quickly. Because once they start wilting, they're a little bit harder to peel the petals and stuff out of. Now, if you're just going to use petals and greens all together, that's fine. But if you want to separate them, you definitely want to start working with them right away. Trying to get this little piece of green out. There we go. Now, it doesn't matter if you get a little bit of green and you're drying, but you do want to try to get mostly the yellow petals. The greens are bitter, so you don't want to add bitterness to your tea if possible. I like my tea with a little bit of honey in, which also has medicinal value. You could use sugar, honey, maple syrup, Splenda, whatever your desired sweetness is. And I will, when I go to make my tea, I'll put this in the dried petals in a tea ball to brew it. But like I said, I wanted to pick enough this morning to start a tincture, to start some oil, and I will label these bottles with a date and the approximate date when they should be ready before I put them in a dark cabinet. And I'll try to remember to bring you back whenever it's time to use the next step, do the next step in those process and making the draining of them and making the salve. Like I said, that will take at least 4 to 6 weeks in a dark place. So, all right, folks, I just will let you go now. If you like videos like this, please like and subscribe. I'm sure you don't want to sit here and watch me pull dandelions apart forever. So, like and subscribe, and I'll get back to you when I'm on to the next step of making these into other products. And thanks for spending part of your day with me. Enjoy. Bye-bye.